So this is what happened after I took one of those blank passenger side dash panels and used the hole saw on it to make the arrangement for the gauges. There's more to it though. I took some 22 gauge sheet metal and made a kind of a backing plate for the gauges, because the aluminum piece here, this thing isn't all that thick, and there's not a lot of, there's not much rigidity going on there, so I figured I needed something else to support the gauges. All right, so I pretty much got all the dents pounded out of the tailgate, and now just putting a little skim coat of plastic on it to smooth it out, and we'll see how it looks. I'll get it all sanded down and get some primer on it, and find my low spots and my high spots, and hopefully it's not too bad. So like I was describing before, where I made these cross members, and they're going to bolt from underneath the frame flange here. I'm going to take, I had a weld angle iron onto the side, so I'm going to take and weld the angle iron right through the cross members once everything's lined up and exactly where it belongs. So this bed will basically become a one-piece bed. And then the flooring, I'm going to use wood with the regular strips, just like a conventional step-side bed. But the wood will lay on top of these cross members. So these are the angle irons that I welded on to raise the floor of the bed. So basically the bed would sit lower in relationship to the cab. And I had to, it was about about 3.5 inches that I had to raise the floor up, and then so the bed would sit down. And again, that's because the frame on the 97 Dakota kicks up in the back, so I didn't have much choice but to make an adjustment. All right, so I was working on getting this fender wet sanded. That's how I like to do my putty. I'm a big believer in wet sanding for that stuff. And it's pretty well set. I got a couple of high spots here, which actually might be a low spot there, but I think they're high spots there. And I'll get some more primer on it, and I'll figure out what I have to do with that, whether I got to fill out a little more or tap these down and fill again. But this fender, this was the one that was all beaten up. It was just full of dents, and so it's gonna be okay. It's actually gonna be better than I thought it was gonna be. There's still evidence in here of how dented this thing was. You can see where I was pounding on it. I had to pull a big dent here, dents all through here. Here was a piece that was so bad I cut a little section out of an old fender out back and fixed that. This was all dented. Yeah, this thing was a mess. Yeah, so this piece here was pretty much Swiss cheese, but making these bends, I've got to bend this at a 90, basically then bend it back again. So I've got to bend here and here to create this. So I use little pieces of angle iron and vice grip clamps, and you kind of create little bending breaks, where you need them. Because I'm not building this truck to be a show vehicle. That was never my intention. It was pretty much just to be a driver, really. But there's a certain level of quality I want, but I'm also doing it on a limited budget. So if there's a real auto body guy watching this, or a fabricator or street rod builder watching this going, God, what is this crude guy doing? This is ridiculous. I'm just working with what I got. But I think probably the majority of the people that are watching this thing, or have been following it, are probably working in their backyard the same way I am. So, there's ways of pulling off stuff and not really compromising quality, but, you're also not, you're not going out and writing $10,000, $20,000 checks to people for an engine and, this kind of stuff. I can't do it, and probably most of you can't. So, this is what we're going to have. now I'm going to replace this little corner piece here, because this was rusted pretty bad. And you'll notice I did this in 3 pieces. So it was one piece up here, one piece along the center, and then this corner. And what I did was cut out areas that were severely rusted. I didn't want to get up any further. This is the end. This is the piece we're doing now. You can see the holes. See? Got a lot of holes in it. I didn't want to get any further up into the flat part of the door than I had to, because, I mean, guys that are really good at this, they could weld across there and never warp that door at all. With my luck, no matter how careful I am, I'll wind up warping it. And it's a big flat area. I don't want to warp it. So I'm going to try and stay down here on this curve as much as I can, and below this curve if possible. So little by little my door bottom repair here is taking shape. And there's 2 pieces required to do it. There's this piece that has to weld to the inside of the door, and then there's this piece which is basically welded to the outside of the door. So here's just a quick preview of the steering column I'm using. It is a Dakota steering column. It's a tilt column. And I just didn't want to have the ignition switch in the steering column. I didn't want the wiper switch on the directional. I didn't want that stuff. It always, I don't know. It's not what I wanted. So I just hacked away all of the things I didn't want on the steering column. So the ignition switch is gone, directional, everything's gone, and I'll rig up a new directional signal. But so now I've got to make a surround for the column, and it's a tilt column, so that this piece and this piece have to move independently. And this is a piece of 5-inch exhaust pipe that would basically go up to the turbocharger on a big block Cummins or Caterpillar engine, and it's going to work perfectly. And I'll drill a hole on the other side for my directional signal and for the stalk for the adjustment on the tilt column. And then this I'll just probably make out of smaller diameter pipe and figure out how far I want to hide it and all the rest of it. But that'll work out pretty good, and this will all get painted. You'll never know it was exhaust pipe.